wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons, the Transformers. The Transformers.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting edition of Transformers Reviews. This is episode 102, and today, guys, we are going to be taking a look at none other than Nemesis Prime. And so here we have Nemesis Prime in his vehicle mode. Now, we are going to go look at him first without his trailer. That is so that we can take a look and see that he, actually in comparison to the G2 Optimus, which is kind of cool to see these two together, he is actually about the same size as the G2 Optimus. I was kind of blown away by that. Now obviously, due to the way he transforms, he's got this little bit of extra bulk along here, but it still is pretty close, which I find totally awesome and amazing. So, if we kind of look at the side paint here, you'll notice that the side windows are actually painted in a bright red, but it doesn't quite match up totally with the red tinted see-through windows, which appear a lot darker than obviously the bright red paint that they got going on here. But overall, the only thing I have to complain about it, which again, we said, you know, this is a necessity back here. I wish there was some way to hide that and these little tabs on, to give him like little wings on the back of his, you know, bobtail part of his truck. But other than that, it's a solid little truck. Now, if we move on to his full-on semi-tractor trailer mode, you can kind of see what he looks like here with his trailer fully armored up and everything. And one of the cool things is that, you know, I mean, that you can have all the storage, but it does leave an unsightly gap here because to attach these things, you actually have to fold this deal out. But to show you what he kind of looks like with a slicker, kind of more streamlined trailer. And so here he is with a little bit of a slicker, like I said, more streamlined look, which the only reason I left this in here, the Prime Blaster, is because it does kind of help fill out the top a little bit more. Otherwise, there is an unsightly gap if you don't put this in here on trailer mode. So that's probably what I'm going to do with it. But if you do want to store the weapons on the trailer like you just saw, you do have options aplenty, basically. So before we move on to any robot mode, I kind of want to show you how he stacks up against Moonracer here. So I mean, pretty decent size comparison. I mean, we don't know how big a Cybertronian car is, but a little bit better idea now. So anyway, other than that, let's go ahead and move on to his Nemesis Pax mode. And so here we have Nemesis Pax, which I gotta say, this is one of the reasons I was excited about this actual figure, because it itself is just such an improvement over the other Optimus that came out. And I gotta say, I love having the Armada Dark Star Saber here. That is just one of the coolest additions, that especially whenever Nemesis Pax is using it, it just makes it look cool. Now, the actual core robot body itself is the same as Orion Pax. The only thing that's different is the head. But before we move on to that, I want to show you what he looks like with his other weapon. But I just want you to see, if I can speak here, I just wanted you to kind of see what he looks like with both of his blades and stuff, which is, I think, is just so awesome. That is what makes this set stand out really cool. Now, unfortunately, you can't use these big blasters on the wrist like you can later on because there's no port on the arms. However, on the arms, that's what I really do like about this, is the fact that it looks like kind of like forearm guards, which again, that was on Orion Pax, but in this kind of slick color, you know, I mean, it just looks awesome. Plus with all the color swaps that they did to really just give you that Nemesis vibe. Now, the one thing that is really awesome about his head is if you look at it, it looks like kind of a mix between not only the movie Prime Optimus head, but also kind of a mix of the G2 Comics Optimus. And so like I was saying, if we look at the OG G2 Optimus Prime here, see how his head, it's kind of shaped and it feels kind of more squat or more squished as opposed to the taller Optimus Prime heads that you normally see. And so kind of combining that look with the Optimus Prime from the movies, that's why I believe that Nemesis Pax has a really kind of unique head that's different from the one that you see later on as a full-on Nemesis Prime. So you can see he's a little bit taller than Moonracer there. And Voyagers have been consistent since this guy came out, so here he is up against Grimlock. So much like Rodimus, he is in between a Deluxe and Voyager size class. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at this guy in his full-on Nemesis Prime mode. Alrighty guys, so here we have Nemesis Prime in his full-on robot mode. And I gotta say, the stronger influence that you see out of this is not only the G1 Nemesis Prime, but you can see how they've taken elements of the Armada Optimus and slightly just grafted them into his robot mode. Now obviously, we mentioned the Dark Star Saber, and now we actually get to see the full-on wrist blasters like Armada had. But the one thing that shocks me is that they took the G2 Nemesis Prime and they slightly blended it with the Optimus Prime head of Armada to give you like this kind of look that he's got going on here, and it works. It's wonderful. I am totally down with that. Now the other element that this Optimus Prime has been blended with, basically just only by the means of a weapon, is the blade like you would see the Prime Nemesis Prime using, or normal Prime, whatever you want to call him, and the fact that this is actually a micron.
Laser beam, prepare for flight, course heading northeast.
Is that what you want to call it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, clearly it's modeled to look like a bird, so, you know, it would be cool if he could like sit up here somehow, you know, but he's not a pirate. What am I talking about? Alrighty, and here we have our boy rocking his more usual look. Now I gotta say that just all the weapons and all of his modes, they just work so well. I can't compliment enough, because whether he's, like I said, whether he's Nemesis Pax using these weapons, whether he's Nemesis Prime, I mean, you have options as to how you want to use this guy. You could just have him using, you could strip off the barrel blasters and leave off the swords and just have him use the gun like the other one, and it's still going to look great. Now, the one thing I did want to say is, on the other Optimus Prime, people had some complaints because on the arms and on the legs and other areas that was formed from his trailer, there was just like a hard contrast where it was like red on one side and like a hard cut to gray. Well, with Nemesis Prime being mostly black, you don't have that issue, because look at how seamless, you know, even though he does have other colors, most of it gray with small little teals and reds, it just flows so well together, and you don't have that issue with this guy. He's just as stable, and I mean, like I said, it was a great figure, but now you have this much awesomeness with it. Definitely a recommendation for this Nemesis Prime. Now, however, as impressive and as tall as he is still nowhere near as big as this feller back here. And with that little bit of a teaser, guys, this has been the review of the Transformers Power of the Primes and Nemesis Prime. And until next time, guys, we'll see you in another review.